4D man. That's right, folks. It's 4D man time. 4D man. The 4D man. It's a science fiction movie about a man who can enter the fourth dimension. Kind of, I guess. Not really. It's not like he actively goes to the fourth dimension, which I believe how the theory goes, or like how the practicality of the fourth dimension goes. So the two dimension is just like flat, right? And we're in the third dimension. We see things in the third dimension. The fourth dimension would be seeing things beyond us. So it'd be like, okay, one dimension's a line, and then the second dimension's a square. The third dimension's a cube, and then the fourth dimension is the cube looking in on the cube. We can't see that shit, but okay, a movie about it. Kind of. 4D man. You're just like, okay, he can see all and do all. No, he can kind of just walk through walls and stuff. I don't know. It's 59. Do we have a grasp on what any of this means? Probably not. But I had a bunch of old sci-fi movies I had to get through. I figured this would be an interesting one to talk about. And it is, because this movie is fucking insane. I don't know what is going on in this movie, or like whose idea it was to have it play out this way. But this movie is not normal. Like, it is drastically weird and does some insane stuff. And stuff you're like, why are we doing things this way? Because the story is really bizarre. It opens up because it's about two brothers. We have two brothers, Scott and Tony, or Tony and Scott. And I think Scott's the older brother, and he's working at a lab. But we open up with Tony, and Tony, they're both scientists, and Tony's the scientist that's like, my dream as a scientist in today's world is to create a device that puts a pencil through metal, or like a stick through a wall or something. He wants to create a device that changes the cellular DNA in a structure, or whatever the hell you want to call it, and make it go through stuff, that it phases through stuff. Which, sure, the practicality of that, who knows? His brother Scott works at a different institution, because Tony, this movie opens up with Tony doing his experiment. It doesn't work, and he burns down his laboratory. He loses his job. He goes to see his brother Scott, who works at a different laboratory, and his brother's creating a metal. And I love this. You have one brother who's like, I'm going to create the heaviest, densest, toughest metal in the world, and another brother who's like, I want to make something that goes through any metal. And you're like, what a weird way to tell this story, but okay. So he goes to see his brother, maybe about getting a job, maybe just to like get out of the house. And he meets his brother's girl, just like his girlfriend, his gal, named Linda. And Linda is instantly attracted to Tony. So then we spend like 20 minutes. They go about town. They go to dinner. Linda dances with Tony. Scott gets jealous. They play tetherball. Scott gets jealous. Scott no longer wants his brother to stay here because he wants to propose to Linda, but Linda's like, I'm sorry, I'm kind of interested in your brother now. What the fuck is going on? Like, what a weird way to open this movie, and this is what's happening for the first, like, 40 minutes of it. And you're like, what do you mean this is the first 40 minutes of this movie? This isn't about anything with a 4D man. So Scott and his team, which includes Linda, includes another guy named Roy Parker, they're building something called Cargonite or Carsonite. I think it's Carsonite because it's named after like the guy that runs their facility, Carson. They're creating a tough metal. And Tony's like, you're making a great metal, but guess what? I'm making something that go through metal. The entire time, Tony up showing his brother at every single turn. It's crazy. It's crazy. So he's like, guess what I did? I put a pencil through a wall thing. And you're like, Tony, what is the practicality of this? And they're like, well, Carsonite is used for like the military or something. It's like the strongest metal, so you can't break it. But the weird thing is, like, both the things they're trying to build could have like deadly like consequences, like accidentally creating adamantium and then something that could go through adamantium. So it's like, okay. So as this is happening, Scott and Linda no longer are together, kind of. She's like, you want to propose to me. This has nothing to do with your brother, but you need to figure your shit out because you're a mess. And you know what? I can't argue with her because Scott is a mess throughout this whole movie. He's a mess. And he gets mad because his brother His brother's done this before. Like, they actually say in the movie that Tony has taken somebody that Scott was engaged to and has been with her, and you're like, what? What is going on? We're just kind of building up the tension for what's going to happen to Scott, because Scott, we scan him later because he has to see a doctor for some reason. The doctor says, you have weird brain waves. And then when Scott goes to use his Tony's device that can have like a thing go through a thing, he accidentally gets his hand stuck in metal, and then he has to phase it out using the technology. And that is when we see that Scott is the one who becomes the 4D man. He can't see the fourth dimension, but as Tony puts it so effortlessly throughout most of the movie, he can access the fourth dimension, which is just walking through particles. Sure. And then and then it's just like, okay, I guess I'm a villain. He robs a bank. It's crazy that like nothing happens in the first 40 minutes. Like, that bullshit with like the love triangle happens. And then as soon as Scott gets the power, he goes completely insane. And he's like, okay, gotta rob a bank. I get old every time I use the power, so to like regenerate and become younger, I have to kill people. So he kills like the doctor who checked on him first. He kills the old man that runs their facility. He starts killing people left and right. And then this movie just turns into like the fucking Invisible Man, which is really interesting if you think about it, because I like the Invisible Man. And I guess if you're going to hearken the 4D Man to any other like monstrous character throughout film history, the closest one he would resemble would be the Invisible Man. It wouldn't be 3D Man from Marvel Comics. No, that would make no sense. It would be the Invisible Man, because you have this guy who's mad at the world, mad at his girl, is angry at like people for not getting who he is, and just goes on a rampage through a town. That is essentially what happens in this movie after he gets these powers. He kills people, he steals from the bank, and then he's just like, I'm just gonna fuck everyone's day up. And you know what, Scott? I think you're justified in a lot of your actions, because somebody's trying to like steal your girl. Your brother's essentially trying to ruin your life again. You made this thing. No one's truly impressed with it. They're all waiting for the next thing. Like, already your like life's work's being undercut. You can't do anything right. Everyone's walking above you and going around you. Screw them all, man. Take the money, just do weird shit. And I know it's the 50s and not everyone's going to love the effects. I know, but I personally love every time we do the effects. We just clearly have the actor, it's Robert Lansing, on like a green screen. We superimpose that on an image, and he just like walks in and out of like stuff terribly. It looks terrible, but I fucking love it. I love how bad it looks. It's so much fun. And it's just like, you could clearly see when we need him to be blurry or out of focus or like stuff like that, when he's superimposed. Like, it's so ridiculous, but it's like the best thing you've ever seen in your life. So then it becomes like the mad dash nature of like the end of The Invisible Man, where this whole town is like, we gotta stop this guy. He's been a menace for too long. So Linda and Tony work with the local police to try to capture him. But the thing is, you can't capture this guy. He's pissed off at the world. So they go back to the facility because he wants to take like strong metal and like use it for something. I don't really know what he's using it for, but the idea is we're going to trap him at like his place of work, and that's going to just stop him from doing something. It's crazy. It's like 85 minutes. And then like so much shit just happens at the end of it, but also nothing really happens at the end of it, where Tony in time's like, my God, he did it. He accessed the fourth dimensional powers because his brain was different and he touched your technology, is the implication. And okay, that makes some sense, I guess. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. And he's kind of just, he has moments where he talks to Linda and Scott's like, fuck it, I don't know. Like, you could have made me happy. It doesn't matter now, does it? I'd never kill you, but it doesn't matter. Everyone's going to kill me. I might as well kill myself. So he walks through a wall and just puts himself there forever. The end of the movie. That's how this movie ends, is Scott decides it's over for him and he walks into a wall to kill himself so he can phase into the wall and be stuck there forever. It's like a special science wall or something. I don't know why that happened, but Is it because we don't know how to like justify him acting like this freak? I don't know. It's crazy. Like this is an insane movie. Like this guy, he goes crazy pretty quick, but like we kind of hint throughout the movie that he's always been this kind of weird crazy guy. I suppose. I don't think he was really that crazy the whole time. But you're just like, what is going on? What is happening? And the music is so weird. Like, why does this score sound so out of place? I watched this version on the Silver Screens Classic channel, just on their network, and like they have like the weirdest. It's like jazzy, uplifting music while this guy murders people to stay young. It's so bizarre. It's so bizarre. You know what it also feels like? Another movie we recently talked about, The Wasp Woman. It has a lot of that energy to it where you're like, this guy became like the villain really quick for no real reason. But it is very Invisible Man. It's just watching this guy lose his girlfriend, lose his funding, essentially, lose his mind, and access the fourth dimension, which is I can walk through a wall or I can reach my hand into a shop and grab an apple, and then the apple becomes fourth dimensional when I touch it. Look, they don't explain the rules. I'm not going to try to explain them. It's classic sci-fi schluck. I do dig that. But my God, do we spend a lot of time just setting up like this weird like love triangle just to have it turn into I am a god amongst men. You can never truly stop me until I stop myself. I don't know. Very strange. But you know what? I don't hate it. It's so fucking dumb. That's the 4D man. That's all I want to say about it. And thank you all for watching this episode of Galactic Tales. Now be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, I will catch you in the next one, and have fun. Stay safe. Good luck. Oh, I guess I should say you could check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, but I'm going to phase into another dimension. Like the boxes are closing in on me now, and I'm going to disappear. Achoo!